This is Stuck in Middle Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Reflex.
Oh,
And
I'm on
that's
Clay K. What's going on? What's going on, guys? What's going on? What's going on?
hey, this is a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators,
Yes, sir.
creatives of African descent. We hear stories, ideas, advice on how we can break the mold, how we can break barriers. This particular episode is sponsored by our online store. So if you go to sitmpodcast.com/store, shop Stuck in Middle Podcast merch. That's how we're able to drive this machine forward in the virtual web, not in the building today. We got the DMV podcast. Yo, listen. If y'all don't remember, sometime last year, was it early? Yeah, last year, we were down in DC on their platform, DMV podcast. It was lit. It was so much fun. It was only right that we brought him back. Was so much looking forward to having him in the studio, but coronavirus happened. And now
Thank
we
you so
home.
much. Thanks so
Yeah,
much for having
appreciate
us
y'all
on.
coming through, man. We got DMV
Yeah, man.
podcast in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Hey. Thanks for having
How
us
you
on.
doing? How you doing?
Thank you
How
for
y'all
having
doing,
us.
Good.
guys?
Sorry, I'm not able to give you guys food as promised.
I
I
know,
said I was
right?
gonna cook for y'all, so we'll have to do that another time. But
Where
Yeah.
you
Hopefully it's when I'm
located?
down
Where you
here.
located?
you said what?
Where you
Hopefully it's when
located?
I'm
I
down
come
there.
pick it up.
I haven't made it yet. I'm probably gonna make some stew. But I'll let y'all know.
Hey.
What? Say, we know, what I'm saying, we're gonna let the people know who y'all are, and then we're gonna get into it. Starting with Sase, where you from, and you know what I'm saying, like how did you get in this mix of DMV podcast?
All right. So this is like out of order how I usually do things, but
Oh,
it's
right.
perfectly
I was gonna say,
fine.
we
Yeah.
stay on brand.
But it's
Hey.
K-pop. I was like, no, I'm Leroy right now.
Come on, with my
it's
taste
weird.
things.
Yo, we're K-pop ready. Don't try us,
so
bro.
weak.
Don't try us out of order. We're K-pop ready. Yo.
I'm so weak. It's all good. What's up, everybody? I'm Cisse. From the DMV area by way of Sierra Leone, First Generation. Shout out to us. What's good? Came to DMV podcast by my boy Leroy. He hit me up and was like, "Yo, I want to do a podcast." So let's get it going. And then like I was doing a pageant, so he kind of springboarded that. Hopped on later, and that's kind of how we came together back in 2015. And then Midori rolled in right after, and like we've been going strong ever since. But very excited to be a part of the DV podcast. It's been a lot in the past. Wow, it's been 5 years. It doesn't hit you until you say those dates.
Wow.
But like, dang, it's really been 5
I feel
years.
old in podcasting.
You know, like
already.
Like I had a memory today. I graduated from college and undergrad 9 years ago today. I was like, wow, okay, it's real out here. But yeah, so that's kind of how I came to be a part of the DMV podcast. Aside from that, I'm a dancer. I do African dance, any kind of club style from West Africa. My favorite being honestly from like Congo, Cameroon. Soukous is my thing. So like that's where I live. I live in that.
Oh,
But yeah, that is my heartbeat. But also a pageant coach, and I have a pageant coaching and event management business. So those are my things. Leroy.
Hey.
she
Take it away.
passing the baton.
Good passing
Take
the
it
baton,
away.
man.
I got you.
All right.
I'm so weak. I'm so excited. It's one
what's
of
it
those
So
called?
things.
hype.
Thanks so much for having us on the show. My name's Leroy. Let's see, podcast engineer and also photographer, videographer. Done a lot of work that stems back to 2014 when I started. And I've done some film festivals, 48-hour film festival in Baltimore, where we were able to get the fan favorite award. And I also did a lot of work with the Miss Universe organization for about 4 years. I did work with the Miss Universe organization, where I was doing photography and video work. And I was Miss USA 2016's personal photographer, videographer for about 3 years, where we did a lot of work with her. And then now I'm just, looking to buy a second property. And
Oh man.
I just
So
came
casually.
That man is hype for that property, yo.
I was
For the
super hyped.
property.
Nah, because I just went to Richmond to sign some papers for some money. So, and then
Shmoney.
yeah, shmoney, yeah, dirty money.
Oh, nah.
All right, Diddy. All right, Diddy.
I signed in blood.
You
But
can't take him anywhere.
Not
Yo,
at
he
all.
said y'all was gonna be lit, and y'all already lit.
Just wait.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome.
Just wait.
Welcome.
Right.
We do this everywhere.
You got 2 out of 3. Now you got 3 out of 3. It's over. It's over.
Right.
But now, I mean, that's pretty much it. We're working to take DMV podcast to new heights, and we just want to thank y'all for having us on. I'm going to pass it to Midori, who's probably one of these.
You don't even
Whoever
know.
I am, I'm always on top. Hi. So hilarious. I am a new puppy mom, so this is really ridiculous. He's like all over the place. I want to do some formally. His name is Poppy. He's a Yorkie. He gets on my nerves. So I am a model. I actually won a contest for America's Next Top Model back in like 2015. It was like 16. And from that, I just launched my career. I'm an international model and pageant coach. That's how Cisse and I know each other. We both were former Miss Black and Gold, which is how we know the likes of Leroy's, since the Alpha Man is present.
Things
Hello,
come full
hi.
circle.
So shout out to all the full
Shout
circle.
out to the Beta Game chapter of
Right, this is how I fit
from
into
Virginia State University.
Okay, excuse me.
Okay.
Shout out to the
You got like on the block.
We gotta
On the block. Yes.
Thank you very much.
oh, like top model, America's Tara Banks.
So,
What is
so
your
after,
building?
so after that, I started working as a creative director for a fashion magazine. I'm now the senior editor of that magazine. That's iFashion Magazine. That's my home. During my pageantry, I created Pray and Slay, which is a podcast, which is going to be a podcast, but it's workshops that were international for creatives, CEOs, and young women who are also in modeling and pageantry to build confidence, public speaking. This is all the soft skills of personal development, the things that get you to the next level, you know, mindfulness, basically. And so all of that basically launched me into hosting. Now I host and produce for TV and the podcast. And so it's been kind of crazy. Like everything has kind of just jumped around, and like the podcast has been consistent throughout. So everything really started with Leroy and I like going out and doing video work. I mean, like, yo, I want to host something. Leroy's like, I'm trying to figure out how cameras work. And we started building, and we just created this. We created our own revenues and our own avenues to do what we wanted to do from this. So this is home. Yeah, it's dope.
I dig it, man. I dig it.
Now that we've got that out the way, you know, I mean, that's like one of the most difficult questions, you know, I mean, like, tell me about yourself, like it's a job interview. But anyways, man, I want to ask you guys this: from the White House to your mama's house, who came up with that, man? Like, what is that slogan? What does it mean for the DMV podcast?
Well, first of all, that started during the Obama administration, so let's make that very
about
clear.
which White House it was.
Yes.
Gotta clarify.
Wow.
But basically, it's kind of like, you know, DC's known for being a very government law, like this is policy, like those are all the things. But we wanted to make it as relatable as possible. Like, yeah, like the White House is in our backyard, but we can also be as down to earth as being at your mom's house around the corner. So that's kind of where that slogan came from. We cover all things, and we really like to actually focus on people just doing positive and amazing things in the DMV area, because we feel like there was a lack of focus on that level. A lot of podcasts, they like to focus on things happening nationally or pop culture, or it really is all about the government or policy or lobbying, or, you know, all the things that we know DC to be. So we really wanted to take the spotlight on people just doing a lot of entrepreneurial positive things in the DC area.
Not a lot of people outside of, you know, saying like the DMV area know that term DMV. If you're not from here, even some people who just moved here, it takes them about 2 years to like, oh, DMV is like DC, Maryland, Virginia. So when y'all was starting that and then like, you know, come up with a name, was there any fear of this is, you know what I mean, like not gonna be recognized outside of the DMV, or y'all just like, we don't care, we're just gonna cater to the DMV audience and thrive here?
Oh yeah, I mean, it didn't matter because as far as outside, as much as people,
He touching the hats.
Yeah, you gotta get the brand recognition.
He said double down on the branding.
You know, let them know.
and that's even why we embedded the flags in there. So just to make it known that this is not Department of Motor Vehicles.
I hate it so much.
But we've always spoken to the DC metro area. We've always been out here talking to people. The events that happen are out here, but it relates to everything that happens outside of here. So a lot of people from outside of here that want to know what's going on in the area, they tune in, they keep in touch and things like that, which is real nice because it's nice to see that people, from different states and countries like to listen in and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys get the band together?
You said how we get the band together?
Yeah.
It was it was God that did
by divine appointment.
Deliverance.
We got the band together. It was funny because me and Cisse knew each other from college. Shout out to Virginia State University. And then we used to always go to like networking events and talk to people just to go, just because we knew everyone always said your network was your net worth. So I was like, well, I mean, just put that, we'll go out and meet people, we'll figure it out from there. And
exactly.
Then,
we used to work a room real well together. Like, all right, you take this side, I take that. We'd be back in the middle. Let's trade contact.
Yep.
Cool, go.
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
really how it was.
It was exactly like that. It was that person was doing that. Okay, got you. And then when we came out here, it was pretty much the same thing, but we didn't have anything to offer. We didn't have anything to give the people. We were just talking just to talk. So that's when we came up with the idea of doing the DMV podcast in order to, talk about the people that we are meeting, to kind of expand that notion of, networking to the others in the area, and even outside of the area. But yeah, then I met Midori at an event where she Cisse was like, oh yeah, my good friend's here. She's in the show, and
gotta meet her.
Yeah, you gotta meet her. So I was at the show. I was just talking to people, blah blah blah. And then it was funny because they were like, yeah, it's the main event. And then there was the last person walking. And then Midori walks out in this, like, I think, was it paint?
It was body paint.
It was body paint. And then everyone was like, ah! So I was like, and she's like, that's my friend.
That's her.
So Cisse and I knew each other from pageantry, and Leroy goes to this event. It's raw artists. They have it all over the world, right? Mm-hmm. They have all these showcases, all these different people, mixed mediums. And my homegirl, who does my hair, is the featured artist of the night. I am her main model. At this point, I am like peak America's Next Top Model fandom. And I'm like, let's do this. And I let her have her artist body paint me for the show. And I came out in one of her wigs that matched like this crazy pattern on my body. And I walked out and I slayed the runway, and then I come down then Cisse's like, so he's my friend Leroy. I told him all this stuff about you. And I'm like, you've seen my okay. Well,
we're family at this point. We're family. We're family.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm curious, like, how did the structure of like DMV podcast, because with us, like it's a 5-person team. But like we have a technical director, we have like a creative director, we have a producer, like, and then 2 people hosting, like, we interviewing guests, or if we're doing a couch talk, it's like one host. So how does the chemistry and like the structure of the podcast? Is it just free talk, or y'all have guests? Like, what's the structure like for people who are unfamiliar?
Well, let me jump in and talk about like how we've kind of divvied things up, and I think Leroy can we all talk about our areas of expertise, and that's how we're successful. That's why we're successful. You guys have a 5-person team, and I heard you guys' episode on the podcast. I missed out.
They got a 10-person team.
I heard
she was on tour. She was on tour.
I heard y'all were out here with an entourage.
Yeah,
I think people in the back like laughing, and I'm like, who the hell?
I'm talking about people who put in work. There's people who.
I was like, did they get introduced earlier? Like, are they in the studio? I'm like, how did Leroy fit all these people here? So,
thank God he had chairs.
I think right. Yes. Good gracious. I think that there was a time when I was like, hey, you guys, I want to host. This is what I'm supposed to do. My gift, my talent, my curse, this is what I have to do. I have to share. I have to tell these stories. So I'm going to start using this a little bit differently. And that's when I started to make a reel. I started to go out for different gigs. I started doing side projects. And Leroy and I did a production side project for a little while. He would do video work. He'd add me on. And I was like, you know what? I want to take this to a different level, and I want more from this. What do you guys think? And we all came to the same agreement that let's work to our suits, our strong suits, and use that for the podcast. So as a person who wants to host and produce TV, I produce the podcast. So I create our structure. I'm going in doing like the nitty gritty work. When we're doing sponsor work, I'll create the content. I'll go through the content calendar. I'm also social media and brand manager and strategist. So in my daytime stuff. So the work I did with consulting, I just did it for the podcast. I think we all just kind of turned our own talents in on the podcast and said, how can I give in this moment? What do we need? And I'll segue to Leroy, because he's at the helm really, with sound engineering and everything else, the magic.
Oh yeah. And as far as my part in everything is, I've always been engineer in the situation. So started off with some eBay microphones back when eBay was still on top.
Audacity or some kind of
exactly.
USB ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We all start from the bottom.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like before, a lot of these sound companies even invested in podcasting as a medium of things. You had to you do a whole bunch of workarounds with amps and things like that. So I would carry around all these amps and wires and XLRs and things like that, and then try to make it work. Now it's like all you gotta do is just we have a soundboard and computer and all these wires, things like that now. But it started off a lot of walking around with a lot of equipment at all times, because we didn't have a set place where we were recording everything at. So we were moving around a lot. But and then I started to get into doing some of the social media stuff, and social media has been going good. And then I also do the animations on our page too, which I'm super excited about because people actually like it. I'm super excited.
I've been digging those.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
I'm glad y'all were able to get one too, because a lot of people before were like, "Dang, I didn't get no animation." I was like, "Look, I'm still learning."
we were like the start, right?
Yeah.
Actually, you guys were the start.
Not the start. It was like you guys were third, I think. You guys were you guys were the third, because we had two of them when we were at Radio 1. And then
I forgot about those. You were so right. You were so right, Leroy. Yeah, that was 2019.
Yeah. And then I think I don't know. It was a lot happened in between, but then I started to do it again, and y'all were the third one. And now we do them for all the guests.
Yeah, and then for me, my focus started off with co-hosting with Leroy, and then it grew because my passions are, I did mass comm and PR in undergrad, and then also event planning kind of became my life. So I'm the PR person, if you will, I'm the connector in a lot of ways, always trying to bring people and connect us to different things. And anytime we are doing any scheduling, anytime there's an event happening, I usually take over. I'm very much about the schedule and the calendar. You will ask them, so what day? What's the time? No, we're double booked.
That's some hard. That's the
it's full on
no shade,
management.
no shade, but you know what I'm saying. That's the work right there. No shade to
yeah. But to Midori's point, I think we all just kind of leaned into our strengths, and we like to say that we're the trifecta. I love saying that about us, but it really is the best parts of us come together, and then we have our own chemistry, on camera, off camera, that just works. It flows, and it's dope. So, and I'm happy that everyone has been able to have other streams of revenue and opportunities that have come from the podcast. So it's we were all kind of meant to be here for one reason or another, and it's beautiful. So I love these guys.
Yeah.
Heart you, family.
I know in this journey there's been some obstacles, some hurdles along the way. Can you guys talk about them? How are you guys able to pass that? Turn those negatives into positives.
Oh, the studio.
That's number one.
That was our first challenge, was figuring out where we're gonna record. At first, Leroy used to live all the way in Manassas, as you said, at Manassas. So trying to figure out how to get out there. I don't drive, by the way. So that was a lot. And people would have to go out there to have
Wait. You got like a DUI or something? Like,
no, I don't have a vehicle because I live in DC proper. So I don't need a car.
You skipped all the other steps and said DUI. Well, you murdered somebody? Wait, hold on.
That was real extreme.
Do you have a DUI?
Like it's cheaper for me to just take public transportation. I lived in New York for a year, so I'm very much accustomed to it. We're good over here. Thanks. He's so inventive. You know what? He's just like Leroy. Just the next question.
I'm like it's 2020. You know what I'm saying?
You murdered somebody? What happened?
I don't
Exactly right.
Listen,
That
I don't
is
believe in
exactly
living above
right.
my means. It works for me. We're good over here. My parents come and see when they need to. But the studio was a big challenge. So like for the first 2.5, almost 3 years, we went from Manassas to meeting at my place in DC. But Leroy would have to carry the entire studio with him, set up, get people to come in. I did have a nice, little spot for us to set up and do stuff, but it was a lot. It was a lot. And then making sure we can do it every week and holding that down for 3 hours every week in the midst of our crazy schedules. And then when we started taking on more projects, like, hey, we want to do other events. So we're going to go to this event. We're going to go here. We're going to do Neo Soul Live. We're going to do this 93.9 event. We're going to do this fashion show. Like it came to be a lot. So I think the schedule has always been a lot. So when, Leroy was like, I'm getting a studio, I think that was like the biggest blessing that when we were able.
1.5 years in the making.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Navigating that. But
yeah,
we've gone from Virginia to DC, back to Virginia, then between Virginia and 93.9, and then having our own place in DC, which has been like a breath of fresh air. And I miss the studio right now. But,
oh yeah. Yeah, because I think there's always been a direction. Like there's always been a light at the end of the tunnel for us.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to be the connectors in the area. We wanted to be those people that hold it down on the podcast and as far as communications go in the area. So for me, driving to DC from I think it was Reston. Like it was 2 hours there, then an hour and a half back every Wednesday, setting up, doing the show, breaking down, and then doing that. Yeah, it was a lot, but for me, there was always a light at the end of the tunnel. And doing the same thing. She would come from Virginia too, like an hour and a half. Sometimes I think you would take metro. Sometimes you drive, depending on what's your day, because your schedules were never set.
Yes. They changed every.
Trash.
I feel so bad.
I was in and out of town most weekends, so it was I came back in town for Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So I knew that was. I was like, just tell me what day we're doing this, so I can commit to a day. That's all I've ever wanted. Once I realized like hosting a TV is great, I can wake up at like 8 and then do my show at like probably 10 to 11 or 10 to 12 or whatever, and then be done and I have the rest of boom, I know exactly what to expect every day, I can plan for it, right? So I treated the podcast the same way. I'm like, we're weekly, let's try to keep this schedule. Did you have something else to add? Because I had something else to add. I had another obstacle.
Oh, and I was gonna say, we tried out like 3 different studios that were trying to just take our money pretty much at the end, long story short.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the thing.
Yeah, just after just like really searching, really even praying about it, like really just going through it, we're able to be at the studio that we're at now, where it's just our space, and it's right in the middle of the DC. I've been to it, and y'all haven't been to the new studio because we upgraded since then.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got bigger space now.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's sad, man. Coronavirus. Y'all ain't been, being able to go in there and like really, like have fun in there.
Exactly. So that's a sad story, but yes, we are finally at a place where we can call home. But yeah. Midori, I think had some.
Yeah, no. And then this is kind of like just to the point of like 3 different people coming together for one purpose, right? I think there's always going to be a time when we need to check in with the team. And I think that we did a good job of trying to stay in communication, right? I am very much the parliamentarian. I was like, Now is the time. Can we start this? Because I had somewhere to be.
Yes.
It came out of necessity. I was like, I don't have time for this bullshit. So after a while, I was like, okay, so are we on time or are we not on time? And if I have to be the person, then I'm gonna step up. And then I wedged into, oh, this is what a producer does. This is how a producer like runs a show, whatever. So it's like, oh, okay. If this is where we need to be at, let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation. Where are you? Here's where I am. Let's figure it out. Sometimes we throw ideas out and they don't stick. Sometimes we throw ideas out and it works and it gels. Sometimes we have really harsh, like really real ass conversations with each other because we're friends first. And it's weird going into business with your friend, but the podcast turned into a business at some point.
It really did.
And that was a group vote. And it was very much like over time, we all got on one accord. And but it was very choppy in the middle where we're like, what are we doing with this thing? Because we know we could do more with it. We know we have to give more to it. How much can you give to something that is more than a passion, but less than a profit?
That's so
key. That's a word, Midori. Say it again. Say it again.
Come on,
that was a
how
word.
Do you give? How do you give?
You better come with the truth, Phil. You better come with the truth, Phil. I'm going to say that next week. Thank you. Thanks, sis. I'm going to write that down.
So is it like a weekly podcast or bi-weekly or monthly?
Weekly.
We out this joint every Thursday.
Yep.
I want to piggyback on what.
Yeah, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Like, I was just gonna ask, like, how y'all been able to pivot? Hell yeah, Popo is coming for us. So
what's going on? What's going on?
I didn't do it.
I'm good right here. I got white people walking around my neighborhood. I'm good. I don't know.
It's my house out.
I'm weak. Y'all, DC. I live in DC. It happens. I live in the hood adjacent. Don't worry about it. I don't even hear the noise. I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you hear? It's fine. It's fine. It's perfectly fine.
How y'all been able to pivot now with coronavirus? You know what I mean? Like, and still, because there's a lot of content out there. The Instagram lives. How y'all been able to, you know what I'm saying, like stand out and still put content out there and connect with your audience and, you know what I'm saying, like grow the audience still in this time?
I think now has been like of the best time because it really puts us in a space where, we had to force ourselves to do stuff like Zoom to record podcasts. And we're not super excited about the audio when it comes to Zoom because we've always told ourselves we want like the clearest, best, like I want to, we always wanted that. So like Zoom kind of takes some of that away. And
video quality too.
Yeah, video quality also and things like that. So, I mean, we have so much, and we do have so much content that we can put out there, but we are at the same time conscious about the kind of content because we don't want to like, we don't want to just be like, we're just putting content. Like we want to it has to tell a story. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like it has to make sense. It can't just be someone else's something because someone else did it. So
something else that's new in this time is that a lot more people are accessible because everyone's on the same playing field. Like you're all at home. So you might be able to get into somebody's living room more easier than getting into their office, right? So it's like, yo, can I get a call with you real quick? Could you hop on? Like we have more access, especially being in the DMV. We have more access to our local government than we ever have had before because these bros are on the phone. They're hanging out right here. You know what I'm saying? So if you pitch it, a lot more people are likely to say, hey, you know what? All right, what are you doing? And that's at a couple different levels. Or I've seen other podcasts getting guests like, I guess if all you got to do is sit in front of your phone for 10 minutes, yeah, I would do it too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is a great time to create. It's a great time to collaborate.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I mean, shout outs to we've even started getting sponsors. Our first sponsor is 5 Medicine. Shout out to 5 Medicine, who during the virus we started working with them, and we've been able to put a whole bunch of stuff off on working with them, and it's helped us like move to that next level and stride.
At what point did you guys? Yeah, that's really dope, man. At what point did you guys figured out that y'all could take this podcast, and build all these different things with?
I think it just kind of happened organically. Like that's the most genuine response. It started off as a thing that, hey, we just want to contribute to the community, to the area, and like we got something to say. And it's like, oh no, wait, this is like a whole like media company. Like this is like a thing. Like we have so much more to offer than what we originally thought we could do. So we just take a time to strategize and, you know, regroup, meet, hey, what are our goals? Where do you guys see things going? Because I think where we thought this was going to be in 2015 is like moons away from where we are now. And then even where we see the trajectory going further. You guys feel free to add.
No, I think, go ahead, Leroy.
No, go ahead. I was after.
I think organically is exactly how it happened. I think at every step of the way, when we think of how we all branched off and did something and we collaborated on things and like created new things, it was also like, well, they're charging us to do that. You know, we're paying them to do that for us. Why not do it for ourselves or do it for somebody else? So then Cecil's like, oh, I can do that. I'm gonna just host these events real quick over here. Leroy, come to the photography. So now all my queens have photos. I'm over here like, yo, Leroy, I have access to this guy at this fashion show. Come over here with me real quick and do the videography for the background so I can get some content. Now I have a show. Like we all just kind of, and then Leroy is getting content for a production company that he's building on the side. And we're all just like, what's happening here? And now 5 years later, we done been with Radio 1, and Radio 1 is what blew me the most. I was like,
yeah,
that was big.
And they came to us, by the way.
Yeah,
and they came to us, and they were like, "Oh, so DMV podcast is real lit. I heard about y'all, seen y'all." We're like,
where?
And that's when we realized, like, what you're doing, it reaches so many different people. Even if you go on live for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 58 seconds, I found out. If you go on live 58 seconds, I was on for less than a minute the other day. You can't send it to IGTV. You still can't send that one.
How the heck you go live for 58 seconds?
We were taking the features. We had to be there for the people. All that matters. People are in the comments saying, "This is the first time I've seen you guys. I've heard you guys on the podcast. This is the first time seeing you guys. They just never saw." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What's up?" Random people are coming in because of who we are individually, and when we tie that into one main funnel, it's boom. Shit's bound to happen. So sorry, but not sorry. It's bound to happen.
Yeah. That's true.
And, to add to something Midori said that just kind of struck me and reminded me, like even the Radio 1 thing. So Leroy mentioned before how other studios were trying to get us and grab us. And I remember how our name was an issue, right? They're like DMV. So it's like DMV podcast is thing. Like, does it have to stick there? I think you should do something different. Like, you know how there's 106 in Park? Like, you need to. We were like,
we thought about it. I mean, it was an option, and we're open to wherever the podcast was going to grow into.
Right.
But everyone, you're right. Everyone asked us, like.
But I think that's so interesting because one of the reasons I think that Radio 1 even wanted to work with us was because we have the DMV focus. So it's like you got to stay true to you sometimes. It's like, I guess we'll change if we feel like it, but. No, it kind of works for us. We're good. Like, you know, it's fine. And then we're bringing people who aren't even from this. I think, Leroy, when you look at the metrics, sometimes we got people listening to us overseas, across the country, like
Shouts
on the
UK.
regular. Yeah,
UK,
just because they want to
listenership
check in
there.
to see what's happening in the DC area. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
man.
Well,
Everybody want to stick.
Global.
Oh yeah, I mean,
stories are all over. Like,
we
talk
definitely.
about like wide range of things, and also our topics are just general. Anyone can relate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the podcast, the podcast industry. Sorry, I'm jumping all off your toes. Yeah, I think the podcast, like word is oversaturated.
It's saturated if you are looking at it that way, in a sense, because someone can say music is saturated.
Books are saturated.
Yeah, books are saturated.
Yeah, writing them.
Exactly, but it's how.
I wrote one.
Oh, shout to you.
I
heard.
Yeah.
You better plug yourself.
I better plug my book.
Yo, Reflex is the plug king. How many times did he plug his book?
He is though.
I'm surprised he has to plug his book yet.
That is true. I was like, at some point he's gonna plug his book, but we'll see.
Got to.
Countdown.
I was gonna ask, like, did you ever finish that book you were talking about? Out of you.
It's right here.
Definitely stuck to it.
That's
But,
what's up.
I gotta come on y'all podcast and talk about this book.
Yeah.
I'm
See,
just
that's the second
slide.
plug. See how he did that?
King PR. But yeah, so books, everything's saturated, but it's about how you do it. And we figured the way we were doing it and how we were doing it was not there's no saturation. It's maybe not even happening as much as we think. As far as like local podcasting, people talking to people in their area. So that's pretty much how we've kind of stayed true to what it is, and we never really found problems in that area.
I mean, I think podcasting is starting to become a little oversaturated, so to speak, but not to what Leroy said, not so much what we're doing, but a lot of people are just doing the same things over and over again. But are we worried about that? No, I mean, hey, try it, do your thing. Most people aren't being consistent, and that's unfortunate, but it's definitely a labor of love, and you gotta be committed to it. Like, you really gotta, if you're gonna do this podcast thing, you gotta really be about this podcast life.
That's true.
Corona and all. So,
where do you guys see the DMV podcast in the next 3 years?
In the next 3 years, I'm putting out a show every week. that's guaranteed. But no, for the next 3 years, we definitely see ourselves being like a media go-to in the DMV area. Like if you're coming to the DMV, then you're definitely gonna have to talk to the DMV podcast. That's number one.
Man, listen, I know Leroy got it hard out at 3 p.m. We can vibe out for hours and hours and hours. I want to get a quick game in before we close this session. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all got too much energy. We gotta have y'all back when Corona's over in the studio. But I'm gonna call one. I got 9 questions. This is gonna be rapid. I'm gonna call somebody's name, and you just answer with a few words: Sassy, Midori, and Leroy. All right, Leroy, what's your favorite word?
Favorite word is go.
That's hilarious.
Go,
So
go.
true.
Agent, go, go, go.
Go, go, go.
Midori, what sound or noise do you love?
I think I need to see Midori's face on this one. I had to swipe so I could see her face on that one. Are we not answering?
Next question. That was the sounds. Next question.
Oh, okay. All right.
I thought you were gonna get your dog.
All right.
He's not.
We all know what that.
I'm so weak.
Okay.
She pleads with this. I'm here for it. I support you.
She said,
yes.
What profession other than what you're doing right now would you like to try?
That's a great question. I do like 5 things. So like, I think I'm doing them all. Other than what I'm doing right now, what would I like to try? I would like to try, I don't know, y'all. I feel like I'm doing all 5 of them at the same time. I like to make more money being a dancer. Yeah, I would like to do that. Dancing. Right. I would love to dance for a few different African artists. Right. So that's something I would love to do.
Leroy, what are you not very good at?
I'm not very good at anything.
The lies he tells. He's Mr. MacGyver. Mr. MacGyver out here, okay? What do you mean?
Look, I'm not very good at reading people's mind. I can tell you that much. I am not good at that.
Cues.
Exactly, nonverbal cues. Yes. I kind of I shoot my question, no matter the place, time, or idea. And I just kind of, I'm working on that. Continually.
Respect. Midori, what is your favorite thing in your closet right now?
My favorite thing in my closet right now?
Yeah.
Oh, dang. See, it's gonna be a Pray and Slay shirt. I wear these like almost every day. Like, especially since it's Corona time now. I have t-shirts and I have tank tops, and I'm gonna get long sleeves in the fall. And this is like, it's comfy, it's soft, but it also means something to me. So if it wasn't this, it would be my green cardigan, which is one of my favorite things because green's my favorite color.
Green, hey, green's my favorite color too.
Hey, people hate green. I don't know why.
I love
I
it
don't
on
know.
my
That's
skin.
Green's my favorite.
You talking about money? That's not
That's
color
money.
right, nigga.
Yeah.
C said, describe the color yellow to somebody who was born blind.
You better hit me with these pageant questions. Yellow is like a ray of sunshine beaming across your face on a warm summer day.
I dig that. Leroy, that was perfect. Leroy, would you rather know how you would die or when you would die?
How I die.
Yeah,
I have to say why. I would rather know how than when, because I wouldn't be counting it down. I'd rather try to avoid it than count it down.
I dig that. Midori, what are you most curious about right now? Like the first thing in your mind, what are you most curious about?
Wow. What am I most curious? Okay, you know what? It's my dog. It's the psychology behind like training. It's who I have to be best to create environments for him to thrive, and that's different. Thinking about him and his learning is different than any other demographic that I've taught before. I've taught kids. I've taught adults, old ass people, everything in between. I mean, it's crazy talking to somebody and looking at them, and you know they understand you, but they still do nothing that you say. It's ridiculous. And like I can't. It's hard because I can't get feedback from them. You know, I gotta. You know, it's intuition. It's little nonverbals. So yeah, learning about his mind. I'm actually taking a course on Coursera right now about psychology.
That's very curious.
You're such a good mom.
I'm trying.
Yes, mom. I'm so proud of you.
Those who care.
Right now, we're good. We're good.
Last question for C said. Would you rather win 100K alone or 500K with your best friend?
500K with my best friend.
Wait, that was easy.
Yeah, like come on now.
I know they're gonna share.
Shoot, it all depends on who your best friend is.
They win that.
And then honestly, we probably reinvest in each other's businesses because she has an amazing business idea that I cannot share, but it's gonna make great money. So yes.
Hey.
I don't know. Some people gonna turn around and be like, nope.
Nah. Me and my best friend. That's one thing I gotta worry about is money with her, which is a blessing because some people.
Man, what is one thing? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask, what is one thing you guys want your listeners should take away from every episode? Well, after listening to every episode.
Don't forget to tell a friend.
To tell a friend.
To tell another friend.
About the DMV podcast.
Oh.
Hey man, give the people your social handles, man.
Oh wait, you can always on the DMV podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Use hashtag views from the DMV and you might get your photo reposted. You can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, on YouTube too. And if you want to be a guest on our show, you come back on our show, Flex. You don't have to, but everyone else should hit us up, dmvpodcast@gmail.com. You already in. We already
Bang.
We gotta talk.
Stay ready. We stay ready. It's one of those things.
K-pop grew. I told you we lit.
Hey.
Thank you guys so much for having us. We definitely gotta get y'all back in the studio. Reflex. You definitely gotta come through, talk about this book, and plug yourself 10 more times. You know.
True.
Yes.
And I will bring food for everybody because I literally owe everybody here food anyway. So it's fine.
Bring events back. Hashtag bring events back.
Open up outside. We ready.
Listen.
Yeah.
I'm losing my mind.
And Leroy,
I'm losing my mind.
Wishes on the house purchase, man. Midori and everything you got going. CC you as well. Appreciate y'all kicking it with us, man. If y'all enjoy what y'all heard and saw on Facebook, hit that ruler so you get updates every week when we drop new material. SITM Podcast on all social media platforms. SITMpodcast.com. You read the blog. If you want to write for us, SITMpodcast237@gmail.com. I'm Flex. Shout out to AK out of Michigan. I know you cold out there, bro. It's all good. You can come into the DMV anytime. We'll welcome you. This is Stuck in the Middle Podcast. We out.
Man, we out, man.